Hey, fabulous fourth graders. Welcome to week 9. This week we are going to be learning about probabilities. Probability helps us understand how likely something is to happen. I like learning about probability. I think it is very important. I like to play the game Yahtzee, and in the game Yahtzee, we use probability to figure out whether or not it is likely that we are going to roll the numbers that we need. I also like to watch the show The Price is Right, and probability plays a big role in the big wheel when they spin and try to get closest to $1. Knowing whether or not you are likely to go over tells you whether or not you should take your second spin. So very important if you ever are playing Yahtzee or make it to the big wheel on The Price is Right. Today, our I can statement is I can determine the outcome of a simple event. So we will be learning more about probability and understanding what a simple event is and how to figure out the outcome of that simple event. Our materials are a pencil, paper, spinner, and a paper clip. All right, so our spinner, just a basic circle with 4 different spaces all the same side and 4 different colors, red, blue, green, and yellow. To use it as a spinner, you just need a paper clip. You're going to put your pencil inside of one end of the paper clip. Using your pointer finger and your thumb, you will flick the end of the paper clip and it will spin around the circle and end up on one of the spaces. We are going to use a chart to mark which colors our spinner ends up on. So we will spin the spinner 10 times, use a tally mark to show which colors the spinner lands on, and then you're going to write the number in the total column. So you can push pause and do that 10 times, and then when you are ready, you can come and we're going to talk more about this last column, the probability. So go ahead, push pause, spin 10 times, and then come right back. All right, so you should have spun your spinner 10 times. I spun my spinner 10 times, and I got blue twice, green 1 time, red 3 times, and yellow 4 times. So if I add those up, 4 plus 3 is 7, plus 1 more is 8, plus 2 is 10. I've spun the spinner 10 times. These are my results. All right, so now about the probability. So when we're looking at probability, a probability is the chance or measure of likelihood something will happen. An event is a collection of outcomes from an investigation or experiment. All right, so those are 2 vocabulary words that we need to make sure that we know: probability and event. And here is a number line. So a 0 on our number line means that it is impossible. It could never, ever, ever happen. Number 1 is certain on our number line, means that every time we use the probability, it will always, always happen. So what is the probability that we will spin a color on the spinner? So our spinner only has colors. It is certain we will spin a color on the spinner. What is the probability we will spin a number 8 on the spinner? Well, our spinner doesn't have a number 8. It only has color. So that is impossible for us to spin an 8 on the spinner. All right, so theoretical probability is what should happen. So we're going to talk a lot about what should happen. So our spinner had 4 spaces that were all the same size and the same shape. They have the same chance to be spun. It is equally likely to spin red, blue, green, and yellow. So the theoretical probability is 1/4, meaning there are 4 colors and each color is only listed 1 time and all spaces are the same size. So that means that if I spun, they all have the same chance. They're equally likely to get any of those colors. So if we repeated this test and spun it 100 times, we probably get results closer to the same for each color. Each color should have a result close to 25. So if you have the time, go ahead and push pause, spin it 100 times, keep track, and see how close you are to the theoretical probability of getting each one 25 times. All right, so now we're going to look at how to write the probability for each color. So the probability is the total number of tally marks, or the total number of times that you spun that color, over the total number of spins. So it's written as a fraction. So for blue, we spun 10 times total and we got blue twice. So the probability of spinning blue was 2 out of 10. This probability for spinning green, we did 1 out of 10. Red was 3 out of 10, and yellow was 4 out of 10 times. All right, so you can push pause and fill in the rest of your chart where you are filling in the probability now for each of those colors. All right, so now we have another spinner. Our next spinner is not exactly the same as the last spinner we had. So based on this spinner, before we even spin, which two colors are equally likely to spin? Which color is unlikely to spin? Which color is likely to spin? How many possible outcomes do we have? What is certain we will spin and what is impossible to spin? All right, so take a moment, push pause, and see if you can answer those questions before you go ahead and give the spinner a try. All right, so you should have answered those questions, and now we're going to check our work. So which two colors are equally likely to spin? Well, I see blue and yellow are exactly the same size. So blue and yellow are equally likely. So which color is unlikely to spin? So unlikely means that it is probably not going to be the result we get. Probably the piece that has the smallest size. So in this example, red is the smallest piece. So it is unlikely we will spin red. Which color is likely to spin? So again, on this one, likely means that it is probably going to happen. And I see that I'm looking for the piece that is the largest. And green is the largest piece. So green is likely to be spun. How many possible outcomes do we have? Well, we have red, blue, yellow, and green. So we have 4 possible outcomes. What is certain we will spin? Well, it is certain we will spin a color. It's also certain we will spin a word that has the letter E in it. So there's 2 different options we could use. What is impossible to spin? Well, it's impossible that we're going to spin a number, so any number would be impossible. It is impossible to spin a state. None of these are names of states. So 2 different options we could use for what is impossible to spin. All right, so now give it a try. Spin the spinner 20 times and see if your results match the predictions we made using our knowledge of probability. So our results should show that blue and yellow are very close, if not the same number of times spun. Red should have the least and green should have the most. And then if you have a chance or if you have time after you spin it 20 times, spin it 50, spin it 100 times. And the more you spin, the closer we should get to having those theoretical probabilities. So the closer we should get to blue and yellow being exactly the same, red being the least and green being the most. All right, so today we were determining the outcome. So whether or not something was going to happen and how often it could happen of a simple event. And our simple event was simply spinning the colored spinner. All right, so hopefully we understand probability a little bit more. And tomorrow we're going to come back and work some more on probability. All right, well, thank you for taking our lesson today, and hopefully we learned something new.